Were you ever afraid of sex? How do you justify boundaries about physical contact without making your partner feel unwanted? Have you started Kama Sutra, and what's your favorite position? I was scared as hell of having sex. Lube to get everything going. If they're seeing you naked, there's a reason for it, and they want to see you naked, and they're not looking for your flaws. They're going to see everything beautiful about you. Hi warriors, and welcome back to another video. Yesterday I asked you all on Instagram if you had any questions for me in terms of love, sex, relationships and intimacy. So today I'm just going to be looking through your questions, I haven't yet, and answering all of those juicy things that you sent in. Anyway, if you want to learn more, keep watching. So the first question I received is innocent enough. When he doesn't write me first, is he even interested? Honestly, he might well be. Some people are just not that into texting, me included. Other people might play a little bit hard to get, so you really need to have a little look out for other signs that he might be giving. And I guess base your conclusion on that. Just the fact that he's not texting or not texting first really doesn't mean anything, so don't give up hope. The next question: did you see a difference in your relationships after recovering? So I am currently in my first ever real relationship, so I can't say for sure whether my relationships changed, but I definitely feel different. I relate to people differently, and I can get much closer to people than I did before. And that's obviously really important in an intimate relationship, because you really have to let people in. And that is something that I really struggled with before. So whenever anyone tried to get really close to me while I had my eating disorder, even during the recovery from my eating disorder, I would tend to push them away. And I always did this. So even when I thought, maybe I like this person, I would reel them in a little bit to then push them away again, and really it wasn't fair. So in the end, I always just called it off, and that sometimes made it even worse. But it's really important to be open and ready for a relationship. So definitely I think that recovery and starting to love myself again and eating sufficiently so that I had enough mental space for other things, enough room for love, made a massive difference on my relationships, both romantic and non-romantic. The next question: were you ever afraid of sex? I had a problem with my ex-boyfriend because I wasn't able to enjoy it. It was really painful, and now I'm afraid that it's going to be painful still. I was scared of so many things during my eating disorder. I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to have my period. I was scared as hell of having sex. So I avoided it. I avoided all of those things by not eating, by staying tiny and trying to disappear. So I was really afraid of all of those things. And by recovering, I decided that I was going to face my demons. I was going to grow up. I obviously only did this once I was ready for it, though. If you're clearly not ready, especially for something like sex, then it is going to hurt. If you don't want to have sex, your body will make it less pleasurable. It will, for example, stop you from producing enough lube to get everything going, and it's just not going to be fun. So unless you're actually ready, it's fine not to be in a relationship. It's fine not to have sex. You just have to be honest with yourself, and if you have a partner, be honest with your partner, be open, communicate, and go from there. How do you justify boundaries about physical contact without making your partner feel unwanted? Oof, that is a really good question. So, as some of you might remember, I sort of dated someone in first year, and we weren't even in a relationship. We literally went on one date and we saw each other a few times, but he wanted to move things really, really quickly, and he had the best of intentions, honestly. I think he was a really good guy, but I wasn't ready for that, and he wasn't able to take my perspective in that, and I didn't want to take his perspective because I knew I would be pushing my own boundaries and I didn't want to do that. So I think it's really important to share your boundaries, but also explain why you have these boundaries, or what it is that you fear, or why you might not want to do this one thing but you're okay with this other one, or why you don't want to do this yet, or your reasoning behind it. If you don't, the other person might just be left wondering, thinking that maybe they're not good enough or they're not wanted, and you obviously don't want that in a relationship. So it's really difficult to strike this balance. For me, that's why I ended up just calling it off in first year before it actually went anywhere. So, usual Hanne move. But I really did not feel respected, and when I put those boundaries out there, it seemed like he took them to be a target, something to be pushed as much as possible until my walls broke down, and I'd just be left crying and sad and upset and knocking on my sister's door, and it just wasn't a pretty picture. So communicate your boundaries. If he doesn't accept them, talk them through. If he still doesn't accept them, maybe he's not the right partner for you. Also, ask yourself why you have these boundaries, and if there's any compromise you're willing to strike, or if not, that's perfectly fine as well. But as always, the key is just to communicate, be honest, and respect each other. Also, you can make the other person feel wanted in so many ways other than sex. You can make them breakfast in bed, or you can be very thoughtful in some other way. So just because you're not ready for some of the things that he's ready for, or just less in the mood for some of those things, doesn't mean that the relationship is inevitably going to break down. Next question. How to be confident when showing your body to your partner? Yeah, good question again. I think, again, communication is key, so explain to your partner that you are self-conscious about your body. And if this is the reason that maybe you're less in the mood for sex or cuddles or intimacy, then make that clear as well. Just telling your partner these things can help them understand where you're coming from, and it can also help them build you up. So my boyfriend is always really positive about the way I look, about my accomplishments, about the things that I do, and he's just very sweet and constantly looking to build me up. And get yourself a boyfriend like that, honestly. Sharing positivity with your boyfriend and him sharing positivity with you, it's a recipe for success. So build each other up, because that's gonna build both of your self-confidences as well and make you much more comfortable around each other. Also, note that it's very unlikely that they're just gonna be staring at your body. If, for example, you're worried because they're going to see you naked for the first time or anything like that, there's probably so many other things going on inside their head at the same time that this is not what they're just going to be looking at, and they're certainly not going to be trying to find all your flaws at this point in time. If they're seeing you naked, There's a reason for it, and they want to see you naked, and they're not looking for your flaws. They're going to see everything beautiful about you. So keep that in mind. And practice self-love, because that can go a long way too. When to know we are ready to find love. Tricky, but I think when you know, you know. Before meeting Tom, I was interested but not interested. I could definitely find someone attractive or like someone's personality or like to spend time with someone, but I never felt that same attraction. Whereas when I met Tom and we had some conversations, I really felt drawn towards him, and that's the feeling you're looking for. Once you have that feeling, you know you're ready for love. What's the best age to have sex the first time? Whenever you're ready, whether you're 15 or 25 or 40. Honestly, there's no need to wait for the one, if that's what you feel is right for you. But at the same time, there's definitely no reason to feel rushed. There is no rush. If you're waiting until you're comfortable or until you're married or whatever you want to wait for, that's perfectly fine. You're perfectly justified to do that. I don't have a number to stick on that. Have you started Kama Sutra, and what's your favorite position? Honestly, I don't really know the names of positions, so I'm afraid I can't answer your question there. And next question. Do you have more desire for sex since you have normalized your weight? Honestly, when I had my eating disorder, I started my eating disorder when I was 13, and puberty was fairly late for me and my sister, and it had been for my mum, etc., etc. So I hadn't really gotten a libido at that point, and I completely crushed it by not eating. And by then going for quasi rather than full recovery several years later. So it wasn't until 2015, till I was about 19, 20 years old, that I actually reached a weight that my body was perfectly comfortable with. Even then though, I didn't have my period yet until I was 21, and my hormones were just still very messed up. So my libido was sub-zero. Sorry mom if you're watching, this is a bit TMI. I wasn't really interested in sex, also because I hadn't really found anyone I wanted to have sex with. Like, I wasn't that interested in most of the guys I knew, not for more than friendship in any case. But yeah, I guess once your hormones regulate themselves, once you find that special person, once you get your period back, yeah, seems possible that your sex drive comes back. Right, next question. What is monogamy? Well, I think, according to me, the expert right here, I think monogamy is being together with a single person, and not having any relationships outside of that single relationship. Obviously, monogamy is going to be slightly different for everyone, because in your couple you can decide to maybe have sex with other people, or be more liberal in how you define how exclusive you are. But I think monogamy is characterized by a certain sense of exclusivity and being with just that one person and having that special connection with just that one person. Next question. Where to look for a soulmate, especially in quarantine? So how can you find a match while you're distancing? There's loads of apps out there. Tinder. My sister actually found her boyfriend on Tinder. I think it's a pretty decent platform. Obviously, it's important to still meet the person, see if you've got that real connection. But it's definitely a place where I think you can get started, where you can start chatting with people, see if you have similar interests, etc., etc. And then once this whole COVID-19 madness is over, meet them in person. See if your first impressions were right. Who knows? Might be your soulmate. Do you like how conventional engagements and weddings are? Personally, yes. I think it's quite cute to ask someone to marry you and to make it clear that you want to spend the rest of your life with them. However, at the same time, I think marriage and weddings is not necessary. So if you don't want to go that route, that's perfectly fine as well. On to the very last question of today's juicy Q&A. How would you define your gender and sexuality? Are you queer? Just wondering if you define it in any way. So, I am heterosexual, I would say, because I've only ever really been interested in guys. My relationship now is obviously with a guy. I've never really felt sexually attracted to a woman. However, I think I'm really drawn to personality, so I'm definitely not saying I could never like a woman. It's just that it's never happened and I've never felt that same attraction. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Anyway, this video is a bit different from what I usually do, but I really enjoyed seeing all your questions, recording it. If you did too, then let me know. Be sure to subscribe. If you want to see similar videos like this in the future, definitely send me a little message. Let me know that you liked it, and I will see you again soon for my next video.